Hey, thanks for tuning in to another episode of Let There Be Talk. It is Monday, the holiday Monday, Labor Day, September 7th. And this episode is brought to you by Earthquaker Devices from Akron, Ohio. You play rock and roll, soul, country, metal, fusion, whatever you play. You need some stomp boxes. Hit their website. They make the best foot pedals in the business. EarthquakerDevices.com. Handmade out of Akron, Ohio. Yes. Get yourself a wacky pedal, like a pitch bay, a zap machine, talons, crimson drive, speaker cranker. Speaker cranker. I love these names. White light, monarch. Get yourself a foot pedal. You need fuzz, delay, distortion, compression, EQ, or maybe you just need some rock. You need some rock. Earthquaker Devices. Get yourself a foot pedal ASAP from my insane, amazing sponsor. Hit them up. Tell them you heard about it here on Let There Be Talk. All right, it is Monday, Labor Day. Hope everybody had a great 3-day weekend. It is the end of the summer. That's what they call it, right? The end of the summer, getting ready for the winter. Right around the corner, it'll be New Year's Eve, and all of a sudden, it'll be 2016. Insane. That's how it goes. Boom, another year, another summer. Sound of the funky drummer. Rhythm got soul. love Public Enemy. Great episode today. You know, Jerry Casale returns from Devo for part 2. I cannot tell you how amazing it is to have a podcast and have your favorite people on the planet come over to your house and you get to interview them. It just still fucking blows my mind. I'm never going to get used to it. I've been interviewing these people in my mind for years, and I'm sure all of you, as you drive around in your car listening to rock and roll, soul, funk, country, whatever you listen to, and you hear something, you go, man, I wish I could ask him what he was thinking on that lyric, or how'd they write that song, or whatever. And if you finally get to do it, it's just insane, and get to do it times 10. Jerry's been on for 4 hours, a total. 2 hours the last interview, 2 hours today. And man, talk about honesty. It's amazing when these guys come over and they just, you know, you're just so used to hearing interviews on TV and reading edited magazine interviews all your life that when you get real stuff from the people, it's just amazing. You're just blown away. Like, wow, I can't even believe you're sharing that with me. Awesome, and thank you, because the world wants to know, man. Rock and roll is not all fucking love and peace and all right, cool, man. It gets evil. It gets evil and it gets dark, and you think about why. Because it's built on a foundation that's ready to crumble. Foundation of young guys, maybe 20, 21 years old, with just dreams to just play music and nothing else. Not caring about a thing. And that's destined to crumble if a band lasts a while. Bands aren't made to go, 20, 30 years. I mean, they're not designed for that technically. So when it happens, it's so crazy. You're like, wow, how did they keep it together? Because a 21-year-old is definitely different when he turns 30, and then 35, and then 40, and then 50 and 60. And you're in a band with 4 or 5 of the same guys. It's basically like you went to war for 40, 50 years. against record companies and shady concert promoters and terrible studios and bad tour buses and shitty food and no cell phones back in the day where your lady's like, "You're always gone. I'm out of here." Everything crumbles in your life when you give it up for art. But to me, it's worth it. And to a lot of people, like Jerry, it's worth it. You pick a destiny, you pick a goal, you pick a lifestyle, and you fucking go 100%. And that's what this guy did. And that's what he's done, and that's what he's doing right now. This interview, it means a lot to me, and I'm so glad that you guys really reacted to part one. Part two is very, very, very real. So sit back and enjoy it. Have a great week. If you're in Los Angeles this week, come see me. One night only at the store. Distortion returns. It's going to be Jim Florentine, Joey Diaz, and myself in the belly room at the Comedy Store. Get tickets now before it sells out. That's Wednesday, 8 p.m. Also this weekend, I'm going to be with one of my all-time favorite people on the planet, Ian Edwards. We will be at the Sack Punchline September 10th through the 13th. And then Columbus, Ohio, I'm coming your way. September 18th and 19th. And then San Diego, I return, headlining La Jolla Comedy Store, September 25th and 26th. Keep leaving the reviews, please, on iTunes. It helps like a mofo. And subscribe. That shit helps, believe it or not. It gets me into the top 50, top 100. And also email me and say hi. And if you want to leave a donation, hit me at deandelray@yahoo.com. You guys have all been great. I hope your summer dreams rocked. And right now, let's get into a little bit of Devo. All right, here we are. Another episode, Let There Be Talk. Part 2, introduce yourself.
This is Jerry Casale from Devo.
The return.
I'm back.
I can't believe how great. Man, that episode was monstrous.
Really?
Yeah, you know what I love, man, is like when people hit me and they go, "Holy shit, I thought Devo was just Whip It." And they dive in, and now I love that more than anything. When people go like, "I never knew," you know?
Yeah, of course, if you weren't already a devotee, a committed fan, you would have only seen Devo on your radar as a band that had a pop hit finally,
right?
Which was Whip It.
Yep.
And of course, we had been at it as a band and as the band that got signed to Warner Brothers Records, the same members for 6 years. Because in '74 we had the lineup that we ended up going out with.
Right.
So it was a long, slow struggle in local clubs in Cleveland and Akron, and then finally the crazy summer of '77 in L.A., culminating in the crazy fall and winter in New York City, going to Germany to record the album with Eno.
Yeah.
After all the, being courted by all the record companies and promised a lot of things by David Bowie. And so then Saturday Night Live sprung us big, but we still didn't have any radio acceptance. And Whip It was the radio acceptance. After Warner's had thrown their little wad of cash at Girl You Want and it failed, they were bye-bye. They were ready to call it quits.
You were done.
We could have been done. And it was the guy, Cal Rudman, as I said in the last interview, that was the independent radio promoter down in Florida for the southeastern United States that championed Whip It and basically single-handedly started mounting a campaign that then caught on fire and had its own momentum after that.
Right.
So that changed everything because now everyone took notice, and that also meant that the record company thought they understood now what our thing was and what our sound was, and what they wanted was another Whip It.
Yeah, yeah. And they understand money.
They understand money, and of course, we were still idealistic enough and and hermetically sealed enough as a creative collaborative entity that we were moving towards something slightly different, and New Traditionalists represented that.
Yeah.
And we really liked what we were doing, and we really liked what was going down in the studio and how we were recording these songs. And then, as I mentioned, we had this hideous tragedy where we'd been talked into this new 3M tape, 2-inch tape, and right when we were getting ready to mix, we noticed that all the edge tracks were disappearing.
It's so crazy because after you said that and you left, I immediately threw the record on.
Right.
And I was like, man, this thing is flat as hell. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
But I don't really care because the songs on there, I think it's one of my favorite Devo records besides the first record, hands down, because it's so fucking weird. The tunes are really dark.
Yes.
You know, I love Going Under, and I
Yes.
played it on the episode. I think it's one of the greatest Devo songs ever. And it's a surprising record after you have Whip It, which I'm sure they wanted 10 Whippets.
Yes.
You know, so when you give it to them, Beautiful World was incredible. Through Being Cool was catchy and great.
I loved jerking back and forth.
Unbelievable. Da-na-na-na, da-na-na-na-na-na-na. It's so great. But when you turn it in, are they like, hey, man, where's Whip It?
Of course.
Yeah.
They were, kind of flummoxed. They weren't sure where this was at, but then there was also the obvious 800-pound gorilla was, why does the record sound like this?
Oh, yeah.
And as much as we tried to save it by taking it back to L.A., transferring it to the new digital tape format, and finishing mixing at the record plant off of the digital, where we were able to restore some of the dynamic range and some of the high end, it still didn't have the clarity and the punch that, say, Freedom of Choice did,
Right.
or the rock and roll energy that the first record did.
Was there any thought of re-recording it, or just it was going to cost too much?
Well, that was the problem. We wanted to re-record it, but we hadn't realized any money from our sudden fame yet.
Yeah.
That's always way delayed about when you see the money.
Yeah.
Because there's all these clauses with returns and reserves and this and that, and it takes 2 payment periods, basically 1 year, to recoup any money.
Yeah.
Well, we had already recorded this record before a year had passed, and now they were expecting one to come out. The cycles back then were like, you better have a record out every year.
Yeah, yeah.
So we couldn't afford it, and they weren't about to pony up any more cash.
Unbelievable.
So this was it.
Yeah, it's so insane to think, right?
Because those songs live, and especially the ones you mentioned,
Yeah.
they really have power live.
I think you guys opened with Going Under on that tour.
Oh,
didn't
yeah.
you? Yeah,
Oh,
because
yeah.
I remember it was really dark. The lights would come on. You're on
Yeah.
these conveyors,
Yes.
burn out, burn out.
Right.
Man, I mean, it was just fucking the goods.
Yeah, live it really came, through as to what we were trying to do. And of course that tour had production, because now, the record company was willing to support a tour based on the crowds we were getting live, and the the momentum created by Whip It. So back then, as you may have noticed, the concert prices were ridiculously low.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I think it was $12. I looked at my ticket.
And that was a lot.
It might have been $8.50 or something.
Yeah,
but,
the bass was usually $7.50, and the fine seats were 10 or 12.
Yeah.
And you couldn't make money touring.
It's so
you only
crazy.
made money from the sales of records. It was inverted as to what's happening today.
Were you guys on a tour bus?
Oh, we did combinations of everything. Yeah.
Yeah.
We had buses for those stretches out in the Midwest, and then we flew, city to city when you're in the more urban hubs, or we were taking like Amtrak.
Amtrak?
Yeah.
Devo on Amtrak? Are you kidding me?
No. we
During the,
did it
you
all.
mean after Whip It, you're on Amtrak?
Yeah.
No way, man.
Yeah.
That is unbelievable. Can you imagine, like, you're thinking, like I'm on Amtrak at the time I look over and it's you, and I'm like, what are you doing?
Which, we considered like that was slumming it because flying back then was so much fun and so easy. If you can imagine, if you bought a ticket and got sick or changed your plans, you could give it to your friend and just endorse it on the back of the ticket, and your friend could take it to the airport and use it.
Oh, my God. That's so
And
crazy.
all your friends could walk to the gate with you and see you off.
remember that? Yeah.
Yeah.
Just chilling at the gate with you so it wasn't all boring.
And, everyone had a 1 gram vial of cocaine in their sock, and it didn't matter.
Yeah.
Yeah. We would fly to New York on the
Red Eye.
Red Eye's first class on American Airlines and became friends with some of the stewardesses. And they would, after they put their first class passengers to bed, they'd come up in the lounge that was
the
real
spiral.
lounge.
Yeah, the spiral staircase.
Spiral stairway.
I love that
to the
style,
lounge.
like 747s.
With the built-in cheesy-looking disco furniture and the built-in little tabletops with the lamps. And they'd do coke with us.
Wow, man, that is so great.
And then they'd get an order from the pilot, and we'd see him walk through with drinks to the pilot.
Oh, man. Unbelievable.
There was just a lot of freedom then. No one questioned.
Yeah, right?
This didn't even seem like an anomaly.
Yeah, like 2 drinks is cool when you're flying. I've been flying all my life.
Right.
Oh, my God.
So I remember, this is all 1981 when everything's kind of changed.
Yeah.
And for the better and for the worse. Because, obviously, with a certain amount of success where you're a more known public figure and now there's more money, people that wouldn't pay attention to you do. And they're often, the devil in disguise kind of people. So, the culture in general there among artists, musicians, writers, actors, filmmakers, was that cocaine was like cocktails.
Yeah.
And it would be freely offered, and it was a hip thing among successful creative community. You didn't get the sense that you were going to turn into a monster Frankenstein loser.
Yeah, exactly. It's just like party.
And the idea being put forth was, well, cocaine is great because you feel more social and you feel more like talking and you feel more creative, and it's not addictive.
Not addictive.
Not addictive.
Oh, it was even in Coca-Cola early on.
So it was known as vitamin C.
Yeah.
Marching powder.
So many words. Bumpy road. My buddy Krell, Van Halen called it.
Yeah.
My buddy calls it chilly weather.
Yeah.
Toot.
Yeah, all of those. Of course, we started calling it after we saw that they had a dark side and you could feel really bad for a long time. We called it bug powder, which was a William Burroughs term.
Bug powder.
Bug powder.
Burroughs would call Coke that?
Yeah.
I never knew that. That's awesome.
Yeah, and he had it in what was his most
Naked
famous
Lunch.
book? Naked Lunch, which then Cronenberg eventually made a pretty bad movie too.
Yeah.
But he was referring to it as bug powder in there.
That's a great term.
Bug powder, because it turns you into an insect.
Yeah.
You basically have these goals like insects, right? Like, get that piece of bread and take it over there and dig it, put it in a hole, it's yours,
Yeah, twisted mind shit. Like, take a guitar completely apart and then put it back together because it's going to be better.
Right.
That's some fucking shit.
Right. And you go on a mission to try to find a menage a trois after the show.
Yeah. It's funny because
you're an insect. You're not, the higher spirit is gone. You're programmed for action.
Yeah.
And self-preservation. And it's you don't have much empathy. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
Your emotions run to the kind of Pablo Escobar range,
Yeah, the Coke is weird. It's like I loved it and I hated it at the same time.
Now when I think back on it, it makes me shudder.
Yeah. Do you, as I turned off the tapes last time, it was funny because I sense that there was some darkness coming in Devo, because as I turned it off, you said, oh, I got to come back because now it all fucking, the story unfurls, So after the tradition
Whippet was the top of the top of the arc when you take the first big plunge on the high-priced roller coaster. And you've cranked it up there, and you hear it. And now it's like, wee, right?
Yeah, the rock and roll lifestyle.
Yeah, here it comes. And it was also, the beginning of the end in the sense that it was now the attack of the sequencers.
Yeah.
We had always had this great balance between electronics and primal energy with really great guitar and drums and real bass.
I love that because it separated you from Kraftwerk,
Right.
which was 100%
Right.
electronic.
Right.
And
Kraftwerk was brilliant, and they were a band that you appreciated from the waist up.
Yeah, right.
Like Brains.
Right, I love them.
But Devo had the brainiac part, and then from the waist down it was Elvis.
Yeah.
And that's what I loved.
That's what I loved.
Integration of the body and the mind.
It felt dangerous to me.
Yeah.
Kraftwerk feels nerdy and cool. You put it on and go, wow, this is pretty bizarre.
Safe.
But with you guys, it was like, for example, the Saturday Night Live performance, it feels completely dangerous and like, whoa, who are these fucking weirdos? You know what I mean?
Yeah, it has purpose, and it has what they call balls. It had balls.
Yeah.
But it was also a good dollop of real cutting edge thoughts, art.
Yeah.
So
Well, it's funny because when you walked in, I was playing James Gang, and which is a perfect example. You don't think of somebody in Devo listening to James Gang, but
I did.
right, and you can hear flavors of classic rock and techno or synth rock,
Right.
and because of the guitars and stuff.
Right.
Once you take the guitars away, then the rock's kind of gone.
Right, and of course, what was happening is Mark, he never was introduced to a new piece of equipment, a new sequencer or synthesizer that he didn't love.
Right.
So,
Rabbit hole.
oh yeah, as more and more digital pieces of equipment became available, that's all he cared about, and of course, it makes the rehearsal and recording and writing process tedious because
No
back
organic.
then,
Yeah.
right, back then those things would take hours and hours to do. So he'd go home and program them in his bedroom, but then, of course, he was married to these sequences, and that's what we were going to work with because there was no longer a full open collaboration. Now it was more hierarchical and guarded, like, I'm the main music guy.
Right.
You can still write all your lyrics, but forget whatever you and Bob just came up with. That's too rock and roll.
Wow. So it actually gets kind of dark behind the scenes with the band members because of, you think of the fame of Whip It, like now I'm a rock star? Is it actually that?
Well, I personally wasn't thinking that way at all. And I can't say that Mark was buying his own press. I'm not sure. It's just that, we had different ways of dealing with it. I mean,
Right.
I was certainly socializing more, but it wasn't like I was going to low-ass debauchery parties or something. I mean, I was in with the West Side artist crowd that lived in Venice and Santa Monica.
Yeah, like Dennis Hopper, that kind of scene.
Yeah,
the
and I would go to a lot of
photographers.
art openings,
Yeah.
and they knew me well, and I was in with the young chef crowd. I was good friends with Michael McCarty of Michael's Restaurant, less good friends with Bruce Martyr, Wolfgang Puck.
Amazing.
I was invited to all these wine and food events, and I became known for that as a guy that was serious about it. And I mean, I enjoyed that socializing. you
Yeah.
know? And absolutely did. The female action was a bit insane. I don't think I was ever involved with a woman that just waited for the next band to come to town and screwed them too.
Right.
There was more of a discerning, a decision-making process here.
Yeah.
They were interesting women.
Well, that's what's great. I think that has to be true with Devo. It's not just like a white snake, girl
No.
coming on like, all right,
No, because we hated stupid people.
Yeah.
So that wasn't going to work. That wasn't going to, no matter how beautiful a girl is, no matter how incredible, her body is, and how much you can't resist it on some level. 5 minutes of talking to him can ruin it.
It's so true. What's funny is I fully believe that. And as you get older, it gets even worse.
Oh, absolutely.
You have about 2 minutes.
Well, because you're less hormone driven like some chimp in the forest.
Yeah.
And sex is more in the head.
Yep.
Which it is anyway.
Yeah.
Because all those animals that we speak of when we talk about being an animal, they have periods of heat.
Yeah, exactly.
They're not ready to screw every day. Only humans, being as mutated and bizarre as they are in heat 24/7, year-round.
Yep.
So you're always ready on some level because it starts in the brain. And a girl can hook you by talking to you.
Oh, it's so true. That's why I love having like you on, because I like to weed out the listeners that might not get Devo. You know what I mean? In a way of like, look, what I'm trying to share with you is a good book, a great record, a fantastic film, some good food, like you're talking about. So when you're talking to a woman and you start hitting on the same levels, you're so into them. Yeah. You know what I mean? If they mention like, in 78, I saw Devo, and you just go like, oh, whoa, now this person actually, whatever, if they're into an amazing film that a lot of people don't see or a book or whatever.
Right. Just as we were accused of being the thinking man's Kiss musically, which then I thought in retrospect was kind of funny.
Yeah.
Because I thought, wow, if we can do that, we got both worlds.
Yeah.
We got the brain and the big rock sensibility with big crowds.
Yeah, well, you grabbed me.
You
grabbed me, and I was a Kiss guy. And then you later on realize, oh, thank God for Kiss, but I don't need them anymore.
Right.
It's kind of like your training wheels.
Right.
You got them on your bike, you learn to ride, and you thank God you had them. You didn't break your bones.
So, I guess we were as, driven by hormones to be obsessed with women as the Rolling Stones, right?
Yeah.
But it was the same kind of thing. We didn't put sex in the gutter. That isn't where we put it. It wasn't like fast food or the way guys will talk about it, like that prep school guy that just got...
Yeah, frat guy stuff.
Yeah, frat guy stuff, like it's like taking a shit.
Yeah.
Or putting a notch on the bedpost and putting the name behind the dryer. This was... We were more in awe of it, about the power of sex, about the eroticism, about fetishistic clothing and practices, and
Yeah. And in the 80s were wild sex times.
Well, it was pre-AIDS. Everybody's got to remember that. It's hard for millennials or Generation Xers to understand when they grew up in an atmosphere of fear and death.
Yeah.
The worst thing anybody got and was crabs.
Yeah.
Once in a while you'd hear about...
I do a bit about crabs.
Gonorrhea, that was like...
Yeah.
That was big.
That was big, right? Guy'd be like, oh, the burn. You're like, oh, God, I'm glad I don't have that.
And I never got that.
I didn't either.
I did get crabs one night from a little scene at the record plant in the jacuzzi. With my girlfriend and her girlfriend.
Wow.
And
she had him, the girlfriend?
The girlfriend's girlfriend. My girlfriend's girlfriend had him, and we both found out the hard way.
There's nothing weirder than crabs, right? They're actual crabs.
Oh, I know.
It's so fucking weird because I thought it was
under a microscope. You're really grossed out.
Couldn't believe it. I thought it was a term, like
sure,
just a
colloquial slang.
Yeah, but then when you actually have them, you go, "This is actually a fucking crab, something living on my body."
Yeah,
pretty right.
Not that we don't have plenty of parasites all the time, but
yeah,
these cause so much discomfort that you have to take immediate action.
Especially when you're sleeping, because they seem to come alive at night and start moving, and you're like, they just itch. It's right. It's insane. Straight to the store for Rid.
That's it.
That's an advertisement for Rid. What happened to crabs? That's my bit. Where are they?
I don't even hear about them anymore.
I don't either. And people go, oh, that's because they shave or whatever. No, that's not true. Because they would be in your hair or your eyebrow.
Right, exactly.
So where the hell did they go?
It's possibly that, we reached DEFCON 5 in terms of sexually transmitted diseases, so that crabs went away because they weren't needed
yeah. Or they can't live on the human body
anymore.
We're
so toxic.
We're so toxic.
That's
Burger
very
King.
possible. Yeah.
God damn, that's fucking weird.
Crabs are too organic for this society.
Yeah. It's really weird, though. They're gone.
You're right.
I do a bit and it explodes. If the crowd is over 35,
Right.
and I say, "What happened to crabs?" Not the ones you eat, but the ones you get from sex. You know, what happened? They were everywhere in the 80s, like Bon Jovi. The place will go crazy. But yeah, that's funny, man.
So anyway, this was still the time of crabs, and this is just on the cusp of the first instances of AIDS, when you were just starting to hear about it, but nobody understood what anyone was talking about. And it was really limited to the hardcore gay community and needle users, so that nobody took it to heart.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, I grew up in San Francisco, so it really hit their ground
Well, that
zero.
hit there first.
Right. So I have not had sex since 1989 without a condom, even if
Wow.
I'm a long-term girlfriend.
Wow.
A lot of that was I was afraid to have a baby
Sure.
because it would wipe out my art side. But also, you started seeing guys around San Francisco with AIDS.
Right.
And it really was like, they're not quite sure what this is yet, and I'm just not going to take any chances. There was a lot of needle use going around during the Guns N' Roses kind of Jane's Addiction.
Yeah.
Junkies were hot again, even up into grunge.
Right.
So you don't know what was going on with needles. So I was out.
Well,
Still
I
to
think
this
I must
day.
have been. I never consider myself lucky at all, but maybe I was, because I certainly, grew up at a time where nobody used condoms.
Yeah.
Right?
No one.
The girl had to force you, and that was, again, for pregnancy reasons. But I just refused because I was arrogant enough and artful enough that I thought I can always achieve coitus interruptus. There's no way I'm going to go off by accident.
Yeah.
And I had a credo that I had to make the woman have, an orgasm 3 times before I was allowed to do mine.
Right. Wow. You had some serious control.
I developed it.
Wow.
Probably from years of masturbation.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I stuck with that. And I also thought, arrogantly, that that I was being discerning enough, like in filtering with my radar and the choices that would happen, that if I would have thought somebody was going to give me disease, I would have known that before we went beyond a kiss.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
if I thought, oh, this girl looks like I could get a disease, then it was over before it started.
Wow.
Now, I obviously clearly don't really believe that I had anything together. In retrospect, I just lucked out.
Just the lunacy of that. I always say, like a buddy of mine would say, I say, "Did you use a condom?" And they go, "Nah, she was cool." And I'm like, "Yeah, you're right. Cool people don't have AIDS."
No.
Like, what are you
No.
talking about? She was cool.
Yeah. Yeah, so...
That's funny, because that's the
And now it
mentality.
doesn't matter, because I'm monogamous.
You're married?
I'm about to be.
About to be.
About to be. You got to start with monogamy before marriage, I think.
Yeah. It's true.
It was novel for me to embrace a monogamy.
Were you single the entire time of Devo?
Yeah.
Wow. So good times.
Yeah.
So it's cocaine, it's sex, some money starting to come in.
And even the love of my life, the girl I was with for 7 years through the best days of Devo, was bi.
Wow.
Yeah.
So she would bring ladies in.
Yeah. Yeah, and it has some dire consequences in the end. It sounds better on paper than in reality.
Right.
It's better as a fantasy.
Do you actually find yourself getting jealous, or is it her later?
It was her, because it was always 2 girls,
Right.
And yeah, it was much later.
Yeah.
And you'd go, wait a minute. At the time, you could have fooled me. It looked like everybody was having a great time,
Yeah.
and you initiated that.
You brought it in.
It's like, I only did it because I knew that's what you wanted. And
Oh, that's the classic one, right?
Yeah,
when
yeah.
they say, "I did it for you."
oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
I actually think they mean that.
Yeah. I mean, it sounds like what an incredible time.
Well, right.
You know what I mean? You're like I said, you're making money. You got your band's doing great, and then it seems like you said Mark starts to go a different route.
Well, Mark always acted. I was always the kind of person who, if there was a new clothing store with some bizarre bow tie or suit from Japan, I would be the guy on the horn telling everybody in the band, you got to go to this place and see this. I've just eaten at this restaurant. You have to go, right?
Yep.
I want you to meet this person. I was always like
the mover and shaker of the band.
Promoting and sharing. And it was almost as if Mark at that point was like, well, if it starts with you, then I'm not going.
Wow.
Like,
so there starts to be some resentment.
Thing.
Yeah, some kind of like, oh, you got your cool friends, and I'm.
And he had his.
Yeah.
I mean, he was hanging out with Lorraine Newman. She was his girlfriend.
Wow.
And of course, she introduced him to a pretty, A-list crowd, and so he was going to all kinds of parties, and he would describe bizarre parties at her house where, the film director Tobe Hooper was crawling around on the floor at 3:30 in the morning, seeing if he could find any Coke residue in the shag carpet.
Yeah, Coke Jonesing.
And I I think of those times, and then I see his statements that are like, the rest of the guys wanted the fame that came with Devo. All I wanted to do was write. And I thought, really?
Right.
You were doing everything, but he decided Coke wasn't his drug, ecstasy was.
Right.
So it's almost just like a matter of style. Like his form of what he wanted to do with his energy and time was okay, but mine wasn't.
Yeah, all mixed on your drug choice would be your whole art choice too. Well, you and you cokeheads, us over here with the ecstasy, we're into art, man. Like I get it because I used to do that with junkies. I'd be snorting pounds of coke. I'd be like, look at you idiots, man.
Well, maybe that's why the sequencer lines kept getting more and more intricate and more kind of, like a busy doodle, right? Where there's no meat there.
Yeah.
Like it's like punching Jello. Like where is the root here? Where's the real primal center that we can start with?
Right.
And I would say that New Traditionalists was the last record where there was some semblance of balance between primal energy and just electronics for their own sake.
It's true. It's really the last record that I love because after that we get into Oh No, It's Devo, Peekaboo. It's like Peekaboo. Right. I can see, and I'm kind of like, what happened here? The outfits are kind of funky, and it gets a little weird for me, and I kind of tap out. But it didn't matter to me because from New Traditionalist back, it's absolute gold for me, which is a bummer because I missed Shout, until about a year ago. I'm like, man, I totally missed this record, and I never realized that record I read somewhere was it was like a fuck you to Whip It and stuff. It's like a dark. Is that true?
No, I don't know what's true there. All I can say is if you listen to Oh No, It's Devo, it kind of doubles down on what you heard starting with New Traditionalists, and goes all the way. We called it Evil Clown music.
Wow.
Because that's what we thought we were doing.
Right, I get you, okay. So
I think it remained too silly. I think it should have been darker.
That's what I felt. I felt it was silly.
Yeah, that's right.
Where New Traditionalists, I swear, I feel that record is dark.
Yeah.
I really feel the dark. Going Under, Beautiful World.
Right.
Those are some really dark songs.
And again, I was responding to the times we were in. Reagan had become president. He had empowered the evangelical right-wing base of the party. They were having massive sway over social policy. It was a frightening, ugly time for anybody who was progressive at all. And
it really was. It
really
was a
felt
dark
like
era.
a throwback.
Yeah.
And it was the Gordon Gekko era, where Wall Street was taking over, and the beginning of the end for funding for education,
Music programs,
equal pay, middle class wages. It was starting right then to gouge the middle class, and medical care becoming a joke in America, where you have to be a millionaire to stay alive.
Oh man, it's so true.
And it's more that way than ever.
Oh,
it was a I got mine, fuck you time.
It felt like that. It's and that's the beginning of it.
That's the beginning of it. Now
started.
it's just gone to I got mine, and I'm not going to be happy till I get all of yours too, because I see you over there. You still got a little scrap of it.
So true.
So it's like a lion pride coming on a carcass of a, of whatever big wild cow-like animals running around out there.
Yep.
And one of the smaller lions gets one little piece off the neck and takes it a few hundred yards away.
Yeah.
And the big lion goes, wait, I want that one too.
Yeah, you just say, hey, man, you get nothing.
That's it. Not happy till they stick your dick in the dirt, even though they're super rich already.
That's interesting that Oh No Devo, I wish it would have gone darker.
It should have been.
Yeah, because the times were so dark.
It should have been. But see, I think, I think the gears were starting to come off the rails.
Yeah.
And that's the least silly it could have been.
Also, maybe because the instruments are missing.
Well, yeah, and because the guitars are virtually gone.
Yeah.
Because Bob Mothersbaugh felt like, well, there's no room left for me to put anything here. What's going on here? And...
Is he getting angry?
Well, I think he's getting frustrated at that point. And Mark doesn't care. It's like, this is what's happening, So what I would do is try to, strip away everything so it wasn't so busy and doodly and, because Mark tends towards silliness. That's why he was so good at doing children's soundtrack music.
Yeah.
Because that doesn't have the same bar to reach as a rock song or a pop song on the radio, where all the cylinders have to be firing together. It has to be a great song recorded well with some kind of primal hook in it and with lyrics that you love to sing, but if you can just go
yeah,
and there's a cartoon character running around, it's a lot easier, and it's a world apart, apples and oranges, from being a group with a voice in the popular culture, like U2, like the Rolling Stones or the Beatles or David Bowie or The Who or anybody that you can remember that really did it.
Yeah.
And
because if you look where you start and where Oh No Devo is, it's so far from the art side that it loses me. And I'm sure it loses tons of people. And now it does kind of become just kids rock, which is a bummer, But I
would try to strip out a lot of the things, and like in Peekaboo never stopped. It just, if you listen to Peekaboo, there's a very busy bass line going do 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 dum 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 do 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 do. And to make a verse, I cut it in half and just stopped it all with a guitar that went and so you could say something, have a rest, sit it down in the foundation and go forward. Right?
Yeah, give it some pocket.
And then the hideous laughter break.
Yeah.
Like of the guy, this is the evil clown.
Yeah, the ha 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 ha.
A laugh that's not funny. From a creep, We were always afraid of clowns. We were obsessed with them. There's nothing more Jekyll and Hyde than an adult clown.
Yeah. Especially if someone wanted to be a clown now. It's like, what? Right. What are you talking about, dude?
Right. So, we were conscious of that, and we were still doing those interstitial bits that I would direct, these videos where there was the ongoing Devo world, where big entertainment was screwing with Devo, and Rod Reuter, the nefarious CEO of Big Entertainment, had a daughter, Donut Reuter, played by Lorraine Newman.
Yeah.
And Rod's favorite group that he's pushing is the Evil Clowns.
I remember, yeah.
And that's really Helmut Newton poster of David Lee Roth where he's up against a chain link fence.
From Women and Children First. That's right.
And we photoshopped, well, not even photoshopped back then. We collaged with some, airbrushing and stuff on the photograph, Mark's face into David Lee Roth's face, keeping his hair in pose and everything.
I remember.
And put the evil clowns on it instead of Van Halen.
Yeah.
And at that point, I was friends with Helmut Newton, so I told him what we were going to do, and he just thought it was funny. He laughed. He thought we were so crazy. Yeah,
well, I mean, at some point, there's some common ground with David Lee Roth and Devo.
We had found out after the fact that David Lee actually liked Devo.
Yeah, I'm sure he did. You know what I mean?
And I never got to meet him at that time. I met him later after he was, unceremoniously dumped, and I met him through Tony Basil.
Oh yeah,
and of course, if you're not in business with David Lee and trying to do something every day, he's vastly entertaining. I mean, I had one of the best dinners I've ever had, laughing so hard I could hardly eat.
Yeah. I opened for him a couple nights, and boy, does he have the best stories ever.
I'm sure.
They're unbelievable. You're not going to get a story in, but his are great.
Yeah, he was funny.
Yeah.
And he does like to take over.
Yep.
He took over the table. So anyway, yeah. So
there was some controversy on Oh No, right?
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is how dark it got. That's about the time that the guy that tried to shoot Reagan.
Yeah.
To impress Jodie Foster.
Yeah, what a lunatic.
John Hinckley Jr.
That's it.
And he had written a bunch of love poems to Jodie Foster, and they published them in the Star. And of course, we're reading these things like every millions of people were, and we're impressed that this is the one good thing he did. Like,
oh, he's actually a great poem writer?
Wouldn't call it great, but like it was really well done for a psycho.
Right.
Right? You know how a lot of people that are completely neurotic or sociopaths also are creative.
Yeah. Well, they're like kind of idiot savants, right? Like
Charles Manson.
Yeah.
And so this one poem really stood out. That started out where he's appropriating the language of patriotism, and it's I pledge allegiance to the fact that your love is all that matters.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I stand at attention for blah, blah, blah. And we just said, oh, my God. But there were really only two stanzas. And, of course, you read them, and there's something completely threatening and dark just under the surface of the lyrics, because it's almost like Sting's Every Breath You Take.
Yeah.
If a stalker wrote that, you would believe that he should be in jail.
Yeah, but if an artist writes it, you're like, wow, these are amazing lyrics.
Right, he really cares about this girl. So, but in the case of John Hinckley Jr., we knew the outcome. So I wrote a third verse that's, stays true to his vocabulary and in the cadence and the rhyme scheme. But it basically is a warning. It's a cautionary tale at that point with my third verse. But we had to get permission from John Hinckley because he had published these poems.
Wow. And he's in prison at the time?
He's already in prison. So we have to write to him through his lawyer. And he has to listen to our albums.
Yeah.
And then we had to give him half the publishing.
Whoa.
So Warner Brothers sees this song,
yeah,
I Desire, by Devo and John Hinckley Jr.
Unbelievable. You had to put his name on the credit?
Yeah.
You couldn't ghostwrite it?
Nope.
Unbelievable. And you guys decide, at the time, do you think, this will burn up some controversy and sell records?
No. We didn't think anybody paid attention to writing credits on the label of a record, but they sure did this time.
Wow, right?
Right.
Like Middle America, you're going to get these guys like, you're promoting that guy.
Right. I mean, this was like the 7th album overall that we had put out, and we had noticed from experience that people go, "Who wrote that?" And it's like, well, it's on the sleeve, it's on the it's on the label.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. They never read it, right? And they would assume since Mark was the face of Devo with the big bottle glasses and the Frankenstein forehead, that he wrote everything.
Right.
Because that's frontman-itis, you know.
Of course.
So that was always amazing me. It's like, but wait a minute, this is collaboration. Like 9 out of these 10 songs are like Casale, Mother's Ball, like Jagger and Richards. Right?
Yeah.
And nobody knew it. But they sure zeroed in on John Hinckley Jr.
That's crazy.
And then the rock critics had a field day. Like, we knew that Devo was sick, you know, these guys.
All of a sudden they're turning on you.
Yeah, right. These guys can't get with the program, you know, they won't play ball. What the hell is this? This is a man that tried to kill our president.
That's hilarious because what year is that about?
Well, that's 83.
Oh, 83. Because look at like even 10 years or 7 years later, Axl Rose covers a Manson song on their record, and it's all over again. You know, like it's funny how people like they just want to find something to jump on.
Sure. Yeah, we were lightning rods for hostility anyway, from the beginning, as we talked about in my previous appearance here, just because of when we came along in the culture and the preponderance of who was running the radio stations back then and the record executives back then who were still mining the 60s as if it hadn't died. They didn't want to hear and see what we were doing. You know, it just, that was that. To them, that was absolute scandal on rock and roll. You know, this ain't rock and roll, baby. Everybody. It was like how the punks got so conformist.
Yeah, right.
It's always a funny parody. I mean, a funny, ironic dichotomy. Like, yeah, we came around when the Eagles were king.
Yeah, king.
And they called that, what were they calling it? Something about soft and sexy. Like, these guys are so mature and so manly, they can afford to be mellow.
Soft rock.
Yeah. And that just, that idea just would just make our ears go up like a guard dog, you know. We couldn't take that.
Yeah.
And the conformity, like you say. Everything had to sound alike by then.
Yeah, it's so crazy. It's funny because I absolutely love the Eagles and I absolutely love Devo. You know, I never looked at music as these like
right. That there was a time you could do that.
Yeah, it really was.
I mean at the same time in the 80s that I liked, you know, Heaven 17. I was really liking you know, black funk and
like Funkadelic, Parliament,
and even like country music that I would hear like good versions of good songs.
Oh yeah,
I cared about good songs.
I loved the Highwaymen. Yeah, I saw the Highwaymen live. Yeah. I loved Willie Nelson. I loved Hank Williams. Right. You know, any kind of. It really comes down to songs.
It really does.
You know, that's what it's about. It's like, well, is it a great song? You know, yeah, it's a great song. Well, it's not in the format I'm supposed to like. I mean, I love, you know, Carole King's Tapestry record as much as anything.
Right.
When you look at me, you're not going to think I'm throwing Tapestry on.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah, and that's, you know, for me, that's always what mattered is this combination of style and content. I hate it when style triumphs over all content. And that's kind of like what we live in now.
Yeah.
If you watch the MTV VMAs, you just see this obscene level of production you've never seen in the history of rock and roll television. And you can't remember one note, one song, because it's just ridiculous, bombastic style, homogenous.
Yep.
Everything sounds the same.
It really does.
And so all that mattered was the outrageous costumes and the false controversy.
Yeah. Yeah. False controversy is so right. It's like, okay, you're going to go out there and then you're going to have a nipple slip and then we're going to sell 7 million records.
And it did turn out that the whole broadcast was really infomercial for Miley's new record.
Yeah, right. It's so
I got to
fun.
hand it to her on that.
Yeah, it's just a machine. It's really interesting how I just spent the weekend with.
And wait a minute,
Huh?
why was the Biebs crying?
Oh, the Beeb said he was just so overwhelmed because last year he was booed at the awards, and this year they were cheering for him that he couldn't take it.
And that's all because of the song he didn't do that became famous, which was the one with Skrillex and Diplo.
There you go. Yeah.
Why didn't he do that song on that?
I don't know. I don't know.
Anyway.
Because, here we are, two adults talking about the VMAs.
I thought maybe he was crying because he was so afraid when they flew him on wires.
He was scared.
That he was just happy to be back down on the ground.
Yeah. I thought he was crying because the harness was too tight. He couldn't breathe.
All right.
Yeah.
It might have really squashed his package.
Here we are, adults talking about the VMAs. It's so funny.
Well, you have to, because they're only on there for one reason.
Yeah.
To kind of consolidate the cabal of the music business.
Yeah. It's funny because I had the Dead Weather on yesterday. Alison Mosshart and Jack White. I always hear people say, look at these VMAs. This is garbage. There's nothing out there. And I'm like, well, just turn it off.
Right.
And then walk to the record store and buy these 100 great records that came out in the last 5 years. I can easily tell you where they're at. They're not on the VMAs.
Right.
I mean, everything Jack White's done, or Josh from Queens of the Stone Age,
right.
or any of these great artists out right now. There's a lot of great ones, they're there. It's just like the 70s. What happened was people were so used to the 80s where rock was way in the forefront. But when I was first discovering rock, it was only the cool people listened to rock. It wasn't a mass thing. You would go to a house and a guy go, hey, you heard this? And you go, wow. They didn't sell millions of records. That James Gang record over there, which I think is one of the best records ever made, that didn't sell millions.
No.
But every guy that likes music, you go, James Gang Rides Again. They go, oh, Bomber, Funk 49. Mm-hmm. That's just how it was.
Right.
And that's how it is now.
Yeah. You're right, because in most eras, there's the dreck that is the, in your face, icing on the cake, pop sprinkle, and then the good stuff doesn't get the FaceTime, doesn't get itself up on the radar, doesn't get its head out of the water, except for people in the know,
right?
Who go get it. That's how FM radio started.
Exactly.
Before it became like AM radio.
Yeah, exactly. Right. They were people that wanted to play great music.
And that's what
there was no formats.
No.
And they could, swear or whatever. There was
So for a short time in the 60s on AM, great songs from good artists shared the spotlight with all that dreck.
Right.
You'd hear Sergeant Barry Sadler, then you'd hear Bob Dylan's Like a Rolling Stone, and then you'd hear some simpy ballad by the, I don't know, some horrible group like the Fifth Dimension, and then you'd hear the Rolling Stones' Satisfaction or Paint It Black, one after another.
Yeah.
On your AM station. And again, in the 80s, that kind of happened for a little while, and before MTV went national, when it was only in 3 cities, it was playing all the cool stuff.
Yeah.
And it was playing great music videos because they were great music videos.
It's so true.
They weren't tying them to a top 40 playlist.
Devo kind of pioneered the great videos. I mean,
we were pioneers who got scalped. We had five videos when MTV wanted to start, and they came to see us. I might have mentioned that in my last time here about Bob Pittman and John Sykes coming and pitching us on MTV.
No.
Because they didn't have any content.
Right.
They had a couple live Rod Stewart videos they were going to show. They had David Mallet in England had done a Bowie video. They had the Vapors turning Japanese.
Oh, yeah.
And they wanted all 5 of Devo's videos that we had made up to that point.
Wow.
And they just rotated the hell out of those.
And those were the great Devo ones.
Yeah.
Even Whip It is pretty amazing, man. When you look at Whip It, the video is so radical. It's just S&M, right?
Yeah, but done as comedy.
Absolutely.
Satire.
Absolutely. Yeah. Always with Devo. It's, even your S&M moves are robotic.
Yeah. Well, Mark really couldn't crack a whip,
yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
And he got to sing those parts because I had to play my synth bass.
Did you sing Whip It?
On the record, I sang all of Whip It except for those ones where you... Like when a problem comes around, that's Mark. When it's that kind of voice like that.
Yeah. When a problem comes around. So you sing the verses.
Yeah, I sing all the rest of it.
Let's get into the songs that you sing because this is amazing to me. Like first record, let's talk about it a little bit.
It's hard to say. I'd have to have it in front of me
right.
because there were so many, you know, where I sang it on the record, but then live because I'm playing complex parts. It wasn't going to work.
Wow.
And people couldn't tell at that time the difference between our voices anyway.
That's crazy, right?
And so,
because I don't even know that.
Right.
You know?
So Mark would sing them live.
Yeah.
Which then consolidated his thing that he was the front guy.
So you were the guy like, crack that whip, break your mama's back.
All that, and then the whole chorus.
Wow. When a problem comes around, you must whip it. That's you?
Yeah, no, well, those are a trade-off.
Okay.
He sings 2 trade-off lines in every verse. And then I sang the chorus, like the other trade-off lines, plus the chorus. Like, whip it, into shape, shape it up,
gotcha.
Get straight, go forward, move. That's me. And, yeah, that happened a lot. And it wasn't important because we just did whatever you had to do to get the best result. Back then, it wasn't really about, I'm the lead singer. It was just whoever sounded right doing it. And especially if you wrote the lyrics, you certainly get a crack at it, right? In a democratic band.
Yeah, right. Like Beatles, whoever wrote it sang it.
Right, which makes a lot of sense.
Absolutely.
But sometimes it didn't make sense, and it certainly didn't make sense live for me to try to figure out how to play these counterpointed bass parts and sing and be locked standing behind a keyboard when you can have somebody standing front and center marching around doing it, you know. So anyway, that was just all part of doing the right thing and caring about the band, caring about the end result and what is good for Devo. Because Devo Inc. was a corporation. It wasn't just us making jokes or riffing on the influence of corporate society. That was certainly there, just as we misappropriated all the techniques of advertising in our videos. We set up the corporation to actually protect the members who weren't writing so that they wouldn't be screwed out of everything.
Right.
And also to protect us from unfair taxation that you get when you're just in business for yourself, self-employed.
Yeah, right. You set up a corporation.
For real.
Yeah. Anytime you make over like $30,000 in a year, you got to set up a corporation.
Well, it made sense. For so many levels and for so many things we were doing with touring and everything, it protects you.
Yeah.
You know, from spurious lawsuits and things like that.
Absolutely.
And we had inter corporate agreements so that somebody's wife, if things went south, couldn't come in and demand X amount of dollars, or that she's on the board and owns 20%. You know, none of that bad stuff that happens to bands could happen to Devo. And the idea in a corporation, too, if you read what corporations are about, is you're in the corporation to push something bigger than the individual, right?
Right.
It's like the Three Musketeers.
Yep.
It's altruistic in the sense that you're supposed to do something that's good. What's the best thing for this entity to make it successful, to keep it going,
Survival.
To serve the members? You have a fiduciary duty to put it above yourself. Well, you know, by the time we get around to shout, that's long gone, like the Marine death before dishonor, right?
Yeah.
Too late, pal.
It's just gone.
It's gone. And so now all you're hoping for, kind of like render unto Caesar's what is Caesar's.
Yeah.
You're hoping that there's still enough of a creative spark and an interest that you can put your creative energy in a place that's, serious enough and open enough that you're still going to do good work.
Yeah.
That's your goal, is to want to do good work. And then you can also go do whatever you wanted to do. But in the beginning, it wasn't errant for anybody in the band to think that everybody wanted the same thing, that we were on the same page, that we had the same goal, because we did.
Yeah.
We did.
And there was no front man. It was every guy.
It's true. It's true. It's like, well, a front man could emerge on any given song from what we do in the song, right? But no, there wasn't like a preordained, defined hierarchy, like here's the way it's going to be.
Yeah.
But I think by the time Shout came around, that's what had happened.
That's it. So
Mark bought a Fairlight, with Devo's money, got everybody to agree to it. We got this Fairlight because that was the cat's ass at the moment.
Yeah.
And Depeche Mode had used it to put out a pretty fine record.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, their record sounded good.
Yeah.
So I thought, okay, maybe a record with a Fairlight can sound good, because certainly theirs sounds good.
Right.
Because what I was afraid of is more of what happened on
Oh No.
Oh No. And sure enough, the Fairlight turned out to be a more tedious writing tool, a more frustrating piece of technology with lower fidelity and really, really, really dubious returns than anything prior.
Wow.
For a lot more money.
Are you wondering how Depeche Mode got a great sounding record out of it?
Yeah, I kept asking, right?
Yeah.
And, we found out who produced it. It was like, let's talk to them and see what was done. But that never happened.
You're just experimenting while you're writing?
Yeah, and it would take so long. And Mark was the only one spending enough hours to even make it work at all, because nobody else really even liked what it was sounding like. And at a certain point, I go, look, this isn't working. We got to go back and be caveman, spaceman. We'll write the stuff on bass and drums and guitar, and we'll use a sequencer line or really scary sounds out of the Fairlight to add a mutated abstract element to it, just like we did on the first record. Except now we know a lot more. So the songs could have more dynamics, be more symphonic in their arrangements, and the Fairlight, rather than being the main thing, will be this, thing that colors it. And it kind of just fell on deaf ears, like, yeah, okay, that's a rap, but, show us what that means, right? But you can't if people aren't excited about the idea.
Yeah.
So that's how we always used to work, is there'd be an idea thrown out, and we'd find ways to make the idea real, just like words on a page in a script. Now the actor has to make that work.
Yeah.
And the director has to sell it. So it wasn't happening, and Mark said, hey, if you don't like it, you can stay home. And I thought, well, you fuck. What do you mean?
Yeah.
So I didn't think he really meant that. So I did stay home, thinking that, oh, he's going to change his mind and say, get back here. And, of course, he didn't.
Yeah.
And all he did is tell people I wasn't coming to rehearsal because I was partying.
Oh, man.
Which wasn't true. I was having a nervous breakdown, and I was immensely depressed over the whole thing, because this clearly was something where after Oh No, It's Devo, we had to come back with something new and amazing and dig down deep and be Devo again.
Yeah, you're looking at the end, and now you're not even really welcomed at the studio. Like, oh,
Right.
well, just stay home, and that's going to throw
And I'm
you.
the guy that founded the band.
Yeah, and you've been playing music all your life now,
Right. Right. And suddenly my ideas didn't matter. He had kind of, it was like Animal Farm where there's Snowball and Napoleon, and Napoleon figures out, fuck these ideals, I can just do this.
What about the other guys? Are they just like trapped like shit, we got to just go with it?
Yeah, they were sufficiently passive enough. You can't have 5 Mark and Jerry's in a band. That would have blown up year one.
And your brother's still in the band. That's got to be weird, right?
Yeah. And it was really, I think it was him talking to Alan, because Alan was, after Oh No Devo, he was really, really ready to just chuck it. Because all he could do is play fills and cymbals and odd little pieces of percussion, because all the kick and snare were all
programmed.
Lindrums.
Yep.
And so he felt like somebody had, cut his ball.
Yeah, here you got the best guy on the planet who can do that, what that machine's doing exact, and you're just, it's becoming a Citizen Kane thing.
There
it's
you
me.
go.
Yeah.
There you go, because that's true, because what made Devo cool is like what made James Brown cool. We played like a machined tight unit, but people didn't believe that wasn't a machine.
Yeah, like you guys could play MTV live and people would just assume you're lip syncing.
That's right.
Because it was so great.
That's right. We were really a good live band and tight. And Alan was like a human metronome. I said that over and over. And now suddenly it really is machines, which is not as interesting, because now it's too perfect and dead because of it. There's no tension.
It's flat.
Yeah, flat. So anyway, that I was asked, I think, by my brother, who had talked to Alan, like, you better get back here. Nothing's going anywhere. There isn't like songs are coming out of this.
Right.
I'm the guy that was good at, like many directors, like taking pieces and shards and saying, what's the big idea behind this, and why don't we cut that out and do this 4 times and do this and make
great arrangements.
Nothing seemed like something.
Yeah, great arrangements. You could hear stuff and piece it together.
I wasn't as facile at just sitting down and in 5 minutes coming up with a whole progression and a melody like that. I couldn't do that. Mark was able to do that, especially when it was like ditties. Like, I think he wrote "Day My Baby Gave Me a Surprise" like in half hour.
Wow.
And he had a talent for that. But anyway, there was Shout, and Shout was like about nothing, because he had made it all about him and his Fairlight. But it was like, what was this about? What are we trying to say? And I think he just even thought trying to say anything was corny.
Yeah.
Corny.
Yeah, like something deep. That's kind of weird, right?
Right.
Writing something deep, that's just, everyone can do that.
Yeah.
That's hokey. That's bizarre.
Who
because
cares?
Especially when you're talking about like Going Under or Beautiful World,
right.
Which was just 2 records back,
right?
Which are pretty deep,
So sure enough, I mean, Shout just
tanks.
Well, I mean, the record company goes, "What is this?
Yeah.
What this is so strange." It was a new kind of strange, because just song-wise, it's hard to even define. What kind of songs are those? Are they show tunes? Not really. Are they electropop? Not really. It was neither here nor there. They were esoteric, busy Fairlight numbers.
Yeah.
And there was no overarching theme, and they didn't hear anything they liked. And Jeff Aroff, who had come on to Warner Brothers at that time and was the new person that they put their faith in, the enfant terrible.
The guy that's going to fix Warner Brothers.
He says, yeah. He calls me into the office and says, you got to do something here. We just can't even put this out right now. He goes,
wow.
He goes, what I always liked about you guys is you did the most creative covers ever in the world. Is there one song that you'd like to cover that would do what Satisfaction did by showing people what you're thinking on this record like with these sounds you're using and everything, where they can see you started with a classic and here's what you did to it, so that at least you're giving them a roadmap. And I thought about it for a minute, and I said, well, I always wanted to do Are You Experienced?
Oh, yeah, that's right.
And he laughed.
Yeah.
And, you know, when the band discussed it, nobody was against it. They, you know, Mark thought it was kind of ridiculous but funny, and he knew that we had to, like, try to show Jeff an example of what he was asking for.
Yeah, because or else the record's not coming out.
And
Now,
so
at that point, doesn't Mark realize maybe I'm a power freak here? The label hates the record.
I don't know what Mark thought. I really don't. It's hard. You know, not everything's Rashomon, but then on the other hand, sometimes because of your experiences in life and time passing, you can't quite grab the way you felt back then and relive it. You can only talk about it intellectually, you know. But again, not everything is Rashomon. Not everything is just a matter of somebody's subjective memory. Things happened. Real things happened. And this was a case where something very real happened, where they were asking for this song. We did it. Jeff liked it. Jeff said, okay, I'll give you $50,000 to do a video to it. And he loved the video.
Yeah, it was so good. Did you direct it?
Yeah.
It's so good.
And it was so Devo.
Yeah.
But of course, it was taken wrong in the marketplace. All the reverential, you know, DJs thought we were making fun of Jimi Hendrix, which wasn't true.
Yeah.
But since we had him come to life
in the video
and play the lead, that was Randy Hansen, this guy that was
He's so great, from the Bay Area.
Yeah, he was making a lot of money doing Jimi Hendrix tributes.
He did it. I think he still does it.
Oh my God.
Yeah, man.
And here was the other problem. We hire him. I talk to him on the phone, hire him sight unseen. What no one tells us is that this guy is white. Our production PA picks up this guy at the airport from Seattle, brings him over to the sound stage where we're going to shoot, and he taps me on the shoulder and turns around and goes, this is Randy Hansen, Jerry. And I'm looking at this white guy, a short white guy.
Yeah.
And I go, oh, yeah, ha, 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 right. And he kind of gets, you know, pissed off about it, or just a little insulted. And he says, no, I'm Randy Hansen. And I go, what? I go, how are you Randy Hansen? He goes, just don't worry, I'll show you. And they take him into makeup.
Yeah.
It's complete blackface, including rubber rings inside of his nostrils to flare his nostrils out.
Wow.
And the whole deal.
I never even knew he was white. And I've seen him a few times.
Exactly.
I can't even believe it.
There's no way to tell he's white.
I didn't know he was white at all.
Yeah. So now we had this Amos and Andy dilemma, you know, in a politically correct culture that was emerging.
Yeah.
Like Randy Hansen, okay, he's playing a black man and he's white. How's this going to go down?
Yeah.
Well, believe it or not, nobody reported on that. They just reported on how tasteless and disrespectful it was for Devo to have Jimi Hendrix coming out of a coffin playing the lead, you know. And it went nowhere. And Warner's then, at the end of that cycle where they put it out there and it didn't sell, we didn't even tour because we couldn't tour on the back of a record that had tanked.
Yeah. There's no tour support money, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So, sure enough, they come to us and they say, I know this was the first record of a new 5-record deal we signed with you, but consider it the last. And if you want to sue us, go ahead. But if you just shut up and go away, we'll give you $250,000 to terminate the deal.
Wow.
Yeah, and you're free.
Wow.
And of course, I had already had a nervous breakdown creatively, and and being, the feeling you get when a big collaboration and friendship is on the rocks, And now this, now career failure. And Elliot Roberts, our manager, said, well, you know what? Take the fucking money. We don't want to get into a pissing match with them. We'll find another deal. Don't worry about it.
Elliot's with you the entire time.
Yeah.
Now, that's an interesting thing when I think about it, because he's Neil Young's manager and he managed you guys. Is that all he had? Did he have other acts? Because
he had Tom Petty.
Oh, wow.
Bob Dylan.
Wow.
Joni Mitchell.
Oh, yeah, he had all the killer. What I'm trying to get to
the
is,
Cars.
Was he coming in at any time saying, hey, guys, what's going on with these records?
You know,
like a good manager, right? Or was he just going, fuck it?
Yeah, it was more like, fuck it. Like, if these guys can't see that they have everything you need to be successful and can't make it happen, you know, I can't get in the middle of this.
Wow.
Because obviously, privately, you know, after the fact, you hear all kinds of things that you cannot ever prove one way or another. You can't corroborate with facts. But he, you know, Mark was obviously complaining to him because that was Mark's MO. He would never say anything in a meeting or never say what he thought or what we should do. Or it was the opposite of me. Everybody knew where they stood with me. If I was pissed about something, I was pissed.
Yeah.
You know, I had a temper. But it was always based on something very real. Like, this guy's just stole money from us.
Right.
This guy told us he'd do this with the record, and he's not doing it, you know.
Yeah. I mean, after a while, you got to have one guy like that.
I would tell the truth. Everybody knew where I stood. And you could say, well, no, you're wrong, Jerry, you know, or yeah, we agree, but let's do this. But that didn't happen. So Mark would wait until the meeting was gone. Then he'd go have his own talk. And I know Elliot supposedly told him at one point, oh, listen, you're the front man. You're the star. You don't need these guys.
You can go solo.
Go solo. But Mark didn't go solo. He had the opportunity to go solo. So even he may have realized that it was the team that was making this stuff good. You know? And the whole canon of Devo visuals, that was coming from me and him working together, and a lot of my obsessions about certain types of imagery and photography and ad graphics, and, you know, friends I had in the graphics business like John Van Hammerspeld and John Zabrucki, and the guys at Warner Brothers Records that were so talented at the time, like Rick Serini. And his, you know, it isn't like Mark was trying to take his doodles and go, we're going to use my drawings, you know, because his art was a world apart from the Devo canon. It was a separate thing.
Yeah.
It was running concurrently, but it wasn't about Devo at all. It was more about his id, you know, and obsessions of certain things that were kind of grotesque cartoons, or a lot of, you know, women with their legs spread and things coming out.
Yeah. Kind of R. Crumb stuff.
Very, very much transgressive, which actually the early transgressive stuff was actually kind of powerful and amusing, you know.
Yeah.
When it got more just guys with, you know, buck teeth and stuff like that, it was less interesting to me. But he's parlayed an art career out of those things, and he was always sketching away. You know, he would, after we had a look for a certain album, and we had costumes and we were rehearsing, he would always be drawing us, you know, drawings of us looking like we looked for that tour.
Right.
As a kind of a, you know, a document of the time.
Yeah, like an ode to it. Like, this was that era.
Well, it gave him something new to draw, too.
Yeah.
And he was always prolific. He would draw on every tape box and every postcard. And,
yeah.
You know.
So you get the money, and the band breaks up.
More or less what happened was Billy Gerber, who was our assistant manager, who was really doing all the heavy lifting and dirty work, he got a chance to go to Sandy Gallon and get more money than Elliot was giving him. And he was already making a lot of money, especially for those times.
Yeah.
This is like 1984 now, and he's complaining that he's only getting expenses plus $75,000 a year. But $75,000 a year
Huge.
then.
Yeah, it's like, it's like, what is that?
Well,
like
it's
300, 400?
Yeah.
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 Great money.
Yeah.
You own a house?
Yeah, he was living large.
Yeah. Yeah.
There wasn't
Probably
a-
living better than some of the Devo guys.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, he always had cool clothes, any restaurant he wanted to go to, traveling here and there. But he left. And Elliot was kind of like, after that whole experience, he had one foot out the door. But there was this empty office, Billy's empty office, and I said to Elliot, well, why don't you let me just go back to doing what I used to do before we met you, which was I was basically, taking on more or less all the managerial kind of duties. Like I was trying to always focus the band, get it to the next step, make the right decision, move it forward.
Book the gigs.
Yeah, everything.
All that, yeah.
And, maybe I can help. Like you feed me information and I'll go talk to these people. I'll call them on the phone. I'll go out and try to find things and then I'll tell you what I've found. We'll see what we can do. He's okay. It's like he's thinking maybe he'll get something going. Right?
Yeah.
And he's got the office and secretary answering the phones. And sure enough, because we were dropped by Warner's, that word spread like smoke signals around the small community.
Yeah, and that's a cancer. I always tell people what they don't understand. If you're dropped in the 80s, no one's going, well, we're going to grab Devo because we thought they were making mistakes anyway at
That's
Warner
right.
Brothers.
No, it was like we were the untouchables in a caste system.
Yeah.
And
now we're talking really hair rocks coming.
that's the other thing.
Full-blown Motley Crue.
Right.
White Snake.
Right.
Quiet Riot.
Right.
All that stuff.
Right. So it was tough. There was a lot of brick walls.
Yeah.
And I was trying to find really creative things too, because certainly we had talked over and over about making a movie, about making a musical, about doing this and that. And Virgin Records, they had dropped us long before because they were just like, after making all that noise and dangling the Devil deal, as soon as it didn't happen in 2 records, they were gone.
Yeah.
So now it was just Warner Brothers, and now it was nothing. So what we ended up with was door number 3, when Buttercup, the cow, comes out of door number 3 on Let's Make a Deal.
Yeah.
It was Enigma Records.
Enigma, yeah. And they go with a live record.
Which is, because they thought that was safe.
Yeah.
And actually that did okay.
Which one is it? It's
Devo Live at the Palace?
Yeah. Now that was recorded in during the Freedom of Choice tour?
No.
Or it was recorded once you signed the deal.
It was recorded when we had no deal.
Gotcha.
And we played at the Palace and recorded it.
And it was sold out?
Oh, yeah.
So you still had a draw.
Oh, yeah, live, definitely.
Yeah.
People liked our live shows.
Because you didn't tour on Shout.
No.
And now you haven't toured for, a year, 2 years, and you signed with
3
Enigma?
years.
3 years, you
Nobody's
signed with
seen
Enigma.
us. Right.
And you do the Palace, and you record that record.
Right.
And it's killer. It's got the great tunes, and it's awesome, and it's a great venue.
Yeah. So we think, okay, maybe Bill Hines and his brother at Enigma are going to do something because they had an infusion of cash from Capitol.
Right.
So Enigma was really just an arm of Capitol Records. And they gave him like $50 million. Well,
Wow.
we didn't see any of it.
Yeah.
They did zilch for our record. And, back to making a video on a budget of like 10 grand, which now 10 grand is worth about 20% of when we had 10 grand to do a Beautiful World. you know?
Right.
And so we do a video, and
What was the video?
it was Disco Dancer.
Oh, Disco Dancer. That's right.
Yeah.
So there's like a live record and then a couple studio tracks.
Oh yeah, it comes out with the album with the smile frown interlocking face on it, that was a variation on a theme from the famous French furniture designer Philippe Starck,
Yeah.
who I had befriended through John Zabrucki. So we got the rights to use his...
Yeah, the cover's cool.
Yeah. And what was that called? Total Devo.
Total Devo.
That was Total Devo, and we put out Disco Dancer. And MTV would only run it on Smash or Trash, a program where...
Oh, no, the one where it's like a gong show.
It's like Gong Show.
Yeah.
And it got trashed.
Yeah.
People didn't get it.
And then that was it.
That was it for that record.
Man.
That was it for that record. We did a short club tour.
Yeah, you played the Stone in San Francisco.
Yes. And the best thing about that tour is we would do 20-minute opening act of sitting down and playing acoustic versions of our songs.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Shit, I never saw that.
Yeah, before we stood up.
Wow. So
Yeah.
you'd play acoustic.
Yes.
And is that pre-Unplugged MTV?
Yes. Yeah.
Wow, man.
Yeah.
And that's really got to sound cool. Like hearing, like, you know, what era of songs were you doing acoustic?
Oh, we'd mix it up. We did Jocko Homo as a sad acoustic ballad.
Yeah, man, that's so cool.
And a number of others from like
Beautiful World.
Beautiful World. I can't remember them all right now.
Yeah.
They're on the track list from the Palace, 1990. Because we did it again for the Palace.
Right. Oh, there's acoustic songs on that?
Yeah.
I don't remember that. Wow, I gotta refire that up.
Yeah, we sit down for about 20 minutes before we stand up and go for it.
Wow.
And then we recorded Smooth Noodle Maps.
Yeah.
And
for Enigma?
For Enigma. That was the second record for Enigma. And they chose Postmodern Man to go out with. And we got Ivan New York to do a lot of remixes for it. And, you know, we did what we could.
Yeah.
We did Baby Doll with Swedish lyrics in a movie that John Cusack was in about the music business, where he's a disgraced video director and he has to come back with a career-changing video, and he finds this Swedish group. And so
that's funny because there's like a pilot going around right now that's kind of the same kind of vibe, where the guy's like a big 80s video director. And it's supposed to be floating around here in Hollywood.
That was the story. I guess those stories never die.
I know, right?
So we did that. And, you know, and during that 2-year period from 88 to 90, you know, certainly, again, at that point, Mark's like energy involvement is minimal. He's only interested in doing scoring for Rugrats.
Right. Is that when he picks up that Hertz Rent-A-Car place on Sunset, the round building?
Yes.
Is that his or Devo's?
No, that's his.
That's his.
That's his from scoring from Rugrats.
Right.
So he's making a ton of money from doing Rugrats, and now he's really not interested in what Devo is and what he was in Devo. So, you know, he kind of, you know, checks in and checks out with one foot out the door. And, you know, Bob Casale and I typically spend all the hours trying to develop the songs and do engineering on them and trying to move them along.
Right.
And finally we get to the point where we have songs that sound like Devo songs, and that like we could play them.
Yeah.
You know, live. And we went on a tour of about 7 or 8 cities in Europe, and we went down to South America, and we did about 20 cities in the United States.
Who's on drums at that time?
That was David Kendrick.
Gotcha.
David Kendrick played on both of the Enigma records,
right.
The ex-drummer of Sparks.
Wow, all right.
And, you know, he just didn't have Alan's power.
Yeah.
He had kind of a swingy kind of a cool,
kind of 50s vibe.
Yeah, it fit better with Sparks.
Yeah.
But we needed the hard pounding.
Yeah.
And it just wasn't there. And after that experience, then whatever amount of energy that Mark was willing to put forward to keep Devo, he kind of snipped. That was that. So Devo was basically, it's like we broke up without breaking up.
Right.
There was no announcement.
Right. He just went his way. And what year is that? 92?
90.
90?
90, at the end of 90.
You're right.
It's like the fall of 90 is the fall of Devo. He kind of quits without quitting. And in that time, the only times that we would get together to do anything is when people were asking for a Devo song for a movie or a Devo song for a commercial where, he felt it was like enough of a defined project, enough of an in and out.
Yeah.
That
money projects. No sweat, come in, do it,
that's
leave.
It. Yeah, because that's all he cared about really at that point. He would say that, I just want to make a lot of money.
Wow.
And it was a real abrupt change. Like he no longer wanted the shared vision, no longer cared about the whole idea of what Devo is and what Devo's potential was. Like he wasn't going to bring to bear any of his connections or resources
to fire it up
or ideas to help anything along.
Yeah, that's strange, right? Because it's almost like he's like, I did that. Now I'm making some good money. I don't have to tour or anything.
Right.
He doesn't want to bring anything in that might fire it up good again, because then he...
Right.
So you're down for years, right?
Yeah. I mean, what I was doing is directing videos.
Yeah, so you did Rush.
Yeah.
Soundgarden.
Yeah.
And were you getting into this stuff?
Well, yeah, I had directed videos...
Your whole life?
Starting with Satisfaction, because Chuck Statler really directed the 10-minute film, The Truth About De-Evolution, because I didn't know enough yet. He taught me the mechanics of filmmaking that I didn't understand. What I realized is that when I was a director by heart or a director by temperament, I didn't have the chops yet about the mechanics of filmmaking and how you approach production to get the result you want. You have to back up from your end result. Like if you know you want this shot and you know why, now you have to back all the way up to the first decisions on how you're going to get that shot, including any casting, any props, if you can afford it, if you need permits, what kind of lenses and lighting you're going to need.
Yeah.
I learned all that from Chuck.
Yeah. And
I was a quick learner. So, and Chuck was off directing music videos for bands here and there. So I started directing for other bands. I directed the Cars.
Yeah, which one?
Two of them.
Drive?
No, I wish I'd directed Drive because that was a hit. I directed Touch and Go and Panorama.
Oh, yeah, all right.
Neither of those turned out to be a hit, but songs weren't hits.
Right.
And I and it's the first time they made a music video, so they were very reticent to do anything. I talked them into a lot because they didn't. A lot of bands back then, music videos were scary to them.
Yeah, right. They were because it was such a new thing.
Right.
And if you were shot wrong, it would be hokey for life.
Hokey for life.
Yeah.
Billy Squire.
Yo, man, stroke.
Stroke me.
You're jumping around in the bed.
So
Billy Squire.
And I directed like Blancmange and a couple other English groups.
Who else? You did Soundgarden.
And then after the hammer falls and after 1990, that's when I started getting these offers, and I did Soundgarden and the first Foo Fighters video.
Yeah, now that's got to be cool, right? Like, did Dave Grohl contact you? Like, hey, I'm a big Devo fan.
Yeah, and he was in the same position though. A lot of those bands in Seattle had an anti-video mantra that they kept repeating.
Totally.
It wasn't cool.
Yeah.
So if it was going to be a video, it had to be an anti-video.
Yeah. Which one was that?
That's the one where this, what it really is a 3D CG model of the AIDS virus. We called it a foo ball, so that no one would get in trouble.
Right.
And it chases them around while they're playing.
I love the concept of that. All right, we're gonna make like an AIDS ball, and it's gonna chase you around. You know?
Well, I can tell you that and Dave was very afraid of anybody knowing anything about that song. It was basically directed at Courtney Love.
Wow,
and rightfully so. I mean, she's to me a pretty repugnant character, especially her position in all of that.
Yeah.
And what was going on with her about the time of Kurt's suicide, and then how she tried to, threaten the rest of the band after that.
Yeah.
So, privately among all of us, she was the fooball.
Wow.
She was the big germ.
Wow, that is great little story there.
Yes.
I love that kind of stuff.
That is the truth.
Wow, and
She's one scary person.
have you ever met her?
Yeah.
I love it. You're like, yeah.
So,
Did you see those movies?
well, oddly enough, I knew Larry Flint and, his wife really well. And because of being friends with the Learys, Tim Leary and his wife. And then he introduced me to Larry and
Right.
to Helmut Newton and a lot of other interesting people. But Althea Flint, having known her, Courtney Love did a spooky good job.
Yeah, she did, right?
Yeah. So I guess when somebody's that kind of whatever it is, possessed or like a big germ, they can channel it.
Yeah.
She got it. She hit it.
They can get into the dark stuff.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
She did a good job of that.
Yeah, I mean, those, I watched the film recently, what is it, Covered in Bleach or whatever, the propaganda one, the one about that Courtney had him killed,
Yeah.
It's out this year. Kind of similar to the 90s one, Kurt and Courtney, but way better.
I
And
want to see it.
It's heavy. There's heavy stuff in there.
Yeah, I don't think she had him killed, but I think I know what she did to make him want to die.
Yeah, torture him.
Well, yeah. Cuckold him and torture him, yeah. So anyway, how did we get off on that? Oh,
Well-
just because of music videos. And and then there were all these the Toadies, so many. I mean, it's just, it
You're
starts
making
to
good
blur
money
together.
doing it?
Well, nothing like what happens when you tour and have a hit song.
Yeah, I heard that.
But I'm remaining creative, but in my mind, I never mistook what I was doing to be on the level of creating Devo and having a voice in the marketplace as an artist, as a recording artist, because that's primary creativity. It's like you're sitting in your living room in 1969 and somebody hands you Jimi Hendrix's first record. You never knew you wanted to hear this till this moment. You're not thinking about this. You're not going, I wish I had this. Bang, put it on, and you're either hooked or you laugh at this person and take it off.
Yeah.
Right? That's what an artist does. An artist gives you something you weren't anticipating, takes you somewhere you haven't been, fulfills some basic need in the human spirit on some level. All I was doing is secondary creativity with music videos where you're solving somebody else's problem.
Yeah.
You're making an ad, and you're starting with what they created and finding a way to package it so that others will like it. And you're beholden to the ideas from the manager, the lead singer's girlfriend,
Yeah.
the label,
Yeah.
video commissioner. And by the end of the day,
Video commissioner.
they whack, anything that's sticking out they whack off.
Any of your possible flavor.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And so then it's not filling the hole. You think maybe I'm doing mini art movies here, and by the time you realize, nah, I'm just in this fucking machine.
You're a hired hand and a paid hack.
Yeah.
And you know, that's why I would never, you know, Mark will make these statements about scoring films, and he makes it sound like it's on even par with Devo, and even better because with Devo you'd spend a 9-month cycle writing this record and living with it and touring, and then you got nothing to show for it. Where, you know, for Rugrats they want X number of score for this many minutes of animation, and they need a little song for this character, and he's got 2 weeks, and it's over.
Right.
And he makes it sound like it's the same thing, and to me it's a different discipline, and he was doing the same thing as I was doing with music videos and commercials, which is you're a problem solver. Because people are coming to you going, can you make it sound more like Danny Elfman?
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
yeah, exactly. That's all they're looking for. They're looking for a cheaper. I'm not saying with Mark,
Right.
but whenever somebody makes they gain ground somewhere, they're like, well, how can we get Danny Elfman but
Right.
cheaper?
Right. So I just, you know, I'm an idiot because I don't compartmentalize like that, and I don't withhold cooperation or creativity. I sunk my whole life as an artist, which I was an artist when I met Mark. That's what I did. That's why we met each other. We both did visual art. I sunk everything I was doing to the service of Devo. I didn't keep doing something else separate, saying, well, Devo's one thing I do. I kind of wish I had.
Right.
I kind of wish I just kept producing my more private, you know, less communicative visual art instead of putting all my visual art aesthetic into Devo, because that's what I did.
I hear you, but you know, you wanted to be in a band.
I wanted the band to be huge.
That's what I'm saying. That's what's great.
I thought the band was everything.
Well, that's the thing. It's like me. It's like I started playing music, and 25 years go by, and you see all the guys that don't do art or anymore or anything, and you realize this is all I've ever wanted to do. If you could get 4 guys and that's all they ever wanted to do, then you go forever like the Stones. You know?
I admire and respect the Stones.
Exactly.
And, you know, I'd get snickers saying that in front of certain bandmates. And I said the same thing about you, too. I don't think you even have to swallow their whole aesthetic or anything to realize they kind of deserve to be where they are, and they're serious.
Well, they're 4 guys that grew up in Dublin, Ireland, went to school together, had a dream, and they kept it going.
And you know what Bono does? It's what I tried to do with Devo. They also formed a partnership where they share in the publishing.
Yeah.
Because those guys are there in the trenches writing these songs, whether they write them or not.
Yep.
For 8 hours a day,
they're in there.
You know, yeah. Bono can turn and say, "Try this," right? But he's right there, ready to try it.
Yeah.
And rather than treat that person like a hired hand, that when the money comes in, he gets none of it, they share.
That's an interesting thing you said, because once your brother passes away, immediately there's a fund, and you're going like, wait a minute, he doesn't have any money.
Right.
What's going on here? Right. And it's the case of every band. And I always tell people this is how it works. Now, if I'm writing the songs and the 3 guys stay in the room the entire time that I'm this vision is coming into my mind and I'm playing it, the magic's happening, and they're doing different beats or different runs on the bass, they're in. But if the guy goes, hey, keep working on that, I'm going to step outside for a cigarette, he's out. And to me, if they're in that room all the time, they're in. Because if they weren't there, sometimes a drummer will play a different beat and that song will go somewhere else in my mind.
Well, certainly that's what happened with a number of Devo songs.
Right.
It's like actors taking words on a page and bringing it to life so that people buy it. And there's a way to do that because every publishing dollar, half of it's the writers and half of it is the publishing entity. Now, what a lot of songwriters do is they create their own publishing entity with only them in it, so they get 100%. They get that 50 cents for the writer and this 50 cents for the publishing. What I did is say, let's have Devo Inc. Be Devo Music be the five of us, and then $1 comes in and the writer gets 50 cents, but the five of us split the other half 5 ways.
Right. So if you wrote the lyrics, you would get 50 cents and the other guys get the other 50 cents.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
So, and that encouraged everybody to contribute all the time and feel part of something, because they were going, if they helped creatively, if they made things happen, there was going to be a bigger payday for everybody, because if there was a hit, they were in on it.
Right.
And I just thought that was just fair. Like, not that I'm some bro dude guy, but I always thought analytically, and I always thought about what was fair.
Did somewhere along the way it changed and then the guys weren't getting money?
Well, it's just that when you're not making much money, even if you get 10 cents of that 50 cents, you're not making much money.
Right, gotcha. So by the end, the Devo guys, minus Mark, have no money.
Right, they have no money. Mark and I are making money because we are the songwriters, but even that starts to dwindle.
Exactly,
and
over
then
the years.
The kind of obscene money that was available from just going 45-second cues that are franchised.
TV money.
And reruns.
Mm-hmm.
Every time that episode plays on 500 stations, plink.
Yeah.
It adds up amazingly.
Yeah, absolutely. What about a couple years ago, there was a huge Super Bowl commercial for Radio Shack.
Yes.
And the Devo likeness was in there, right?
Yes.
Now, was that some big money?
That's not big money. It's a little bit of money.
Right.
People have a skewed view of how that stuff works. The only way we would have made big money is if they'd been using our song, and that's what happened with that Dell
computers
XPS commercial, with their new laptop, where Mark and I wrote a song called "Watch Us Work It" because I was friends with Paul Malmstrom from Mother, the agency in New York, and we talk a lot, and I talked him into letting us try to write a new song for the piece, and he liked it. And so it was great. We wrote this with no encumbrance. No record company owned a piece of it.
Oh, that's awesome, right?
Yeah, we wrote it when we had no label affiliation. This was before we started this Something for Everybody record with Warner Brothers. And that was a nice payday. That was great. And we could have been doing that a lot with, if that was something that Mark was interested in. But, apparently, obviously, you think you know somebody.
Yeah.
You think you're on the same page. You think you're rowing the boat together, and then you find out they want something else, or they've turned into someone else. Again, I'm naive because I'm pretty much just who I was, except maybe a little more beaten up.
Yeah.
But do I get incensed or mad over the same things, like when somebody's lying to you, when there's duplicitous business action? Yes, I do. But it's predictable. And it was never directed at the band. It was directed at those who were trying to basically screw the band. When you're in the music business, there's so many snakes and sharks coming at you every moment. It's exhausting.
It's brutal, right?
It's brutal. And I thought in the beginning, Elliot Roberts will take care of all this now. But they don't. They don't. Because they're in a club of their own. Like, whether they manage you or not, they're going to manage 6 acts. So...
Do you think managers eventually just lay down like, fuck it, this is the business and this is how it is?
Their loyalties were more to the record company than to the band that they were managing.
Yeah, that's crazy, right?
Well, because record companies were powerful and the business was real. I think it's a little different now because there is no real business, and the record companies are kicking and scratching trying to find a new definition for what they do to stay in the game.
Yeah.
And artists are getting reamed worse than they were under onerous deals from record companies because now they got to rely on streaming services to pay them and things like that. And it's like, who shall guard the guardians, or the fox guarding the hen house? The way that money's divvied up and divided is so wrong. Oh, I don't know if you remember, but a few weeks ago, David Byrne had an op-ed piece in the Sunday New York Times about this very thing. And I mean, he's a guy that's certainly been so successful he wouldn't have to, go on, put himself on the line addressing this like a muckraker, like complaining about the injustice. But that's exactly what he was doing, and he nailed it when he analyzed it and nailed it. And it's just so sad. I mean, I think being an artist now, especially a music artist, is tougher than ever.
Yeah, I had somebody on my podcast recently, and I was saying, why do people right now, I mean, like, you play music when you start for you. You love it. You want to play in a band. You're in 13, 14, 15 years old. You get guys together. You get a band. You're like, yeah, we're playing rock. But why would anybody now go and buy a $3,000 guitar at Guitar Center and then take years of lessons and then learn to write a song and hope you find guys that are on the same page? Why? You know what I mean? Like, why?
Although if somebody would do that, it's such an anomaly that it may end up in the end being amazing, because nobody'd even understand the idea of somebody who can actually play.
Yeah.
That would be a novelty.
Yeah. That's why I love Jack White, because he's playing blues,
right? He's
playing acid rock, whatever, he's playing,
and he plays it really crude.
Yeah, and it's awesome. And he's like, well, fuck everything. I just do my own label, and I'll just, you have to work so fucking hard. Like, I work 7 days a week to make $15,
sure.
And, but you know what? I love doing stand-up comedy.
Right.
So I never look at the money at all.
Right.
But you also look at guys that are just getting robbed, and it's like so weird, I
know. Yeah, hi diddly dee. It's the actor's life for me. Now, what happened to Pinocchio?
Now, you just had the film out a year ago, and I had no idea. Like, to me, I just thought Mark was fully into it the entire time, and he just did the other thing when you guys weren't working. That came out. Was that like a strain? Where's the relationship with it? Because I heard there's a documentary that's not coming out. Is that true?
Yes. I mean, we have it was something really important to me. For years, people would come to us and go, listen, we want to do a Devo documentary. And these were legitimate documentarians. I think like the last one was Sasha Gervais. He did the documentary on... it's the heavy metal group that had the really sad story that never made it.
Oh yeah, that's Lips, that guy Lips band.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm forgetting their name right now. But yeah, that's a great documentary.
Well, isn't it?
Yeah.
Sasha, I know him. He since did a feature film about Alfred Hitchcock called Hitchcock. It was really good. It came out about a year and a half ago. And, Mark would just summarily turn these guys away. Like, inevitably they'd want to be trying to talk to him one-on-one, and then after they did, that's the last you'd ever hear from him. So suddenly when we were in the midst of writing the songs for the Warner Brothers record, Something for Everybody, and we were about to sign a deal with them based on 4 songs that they loved, he came forward with these guys that I'd never heard of, and said, I want them to do a documentary. It's like, what? Mark, you want to do a documentary? Yeah. I want to do a documentary. And sure enough, what happens is the guys present us this contract, and the contract gives Mark a final edit.
Oh, no.
Now serious documentary maker will do that.
Yeah.
Now it's a vanity project.
Yeah.
And it also creates a conflict of interest within the band. But clearly, what this was all about is things I can't even go into, which were, all these secrets he doesn't want out, and especially with his newly manicured kind of respected member of the community bourgeois image. And it was like, not only that, but he demanded in this contract that the copyrights to Devo's documentary life story get assigned to these two guys who were friends of his in Akron, Ohio, before I met him. They were Vietnam vets who were selling pot, right? So they bought him a bunch of equipment, like they bought him a Mellotron.
Oh yeah, you told me they were buying all his keyboards back then.
Right, and I didn't really understand that. When I met him, I just thought it looked like from where his father lived that these guys had money. That he grew up an upper middle class kid. I only found out kind of after the fact that they had bought him this money for one of his prog rock bands called Flossie Bobbit.
Yeah.
And I go, why in the hell are we as a band assigning copyrights to these two guys that had nothing to do with Devo, who were kind of like right-wing, anti-intellectual guys who hated me from the first day I walked in from Kent State University into Akron, Ohio, right? Who, just because I was college Joe and thought my shit didn't stink or whatever it was, I didn't have a chance, And this was a travesty. This was a rape of everything that I care about, because I'd been wanting a documentary to tell the true story of Devo for a long time, because I thought we never got our due. Nobody ever understood what kind of pioneers we were and how many things we did first and what a visually oriented band we were and where all these ideas came from and everything.
It'd be incredible.
So I said, this isn't right. No, let's get somebody real to do this. And he goes, if you won't do this, then you can just consider that Warner deal done. And of course, my brother and I and several others like Josh Freese had been really working on it. And Warner's was way down the line and presenting us with something we already knew what the terms were going to be. And it was really, on the face of it, great money. It was like $1 million, $1,100,000 for marketing, and $2 million to the band, paid out, from signing, from the release, from doing X number of shows.
Bonuses.
Yeah, and we could have gathered all that in about 1 year and 9 months. Now it was all going to be thrown out, and that was really hurtful and insulting, because it was like, subtext, of course, was, look, I make money anyway. This money means something to you guys. It doesn't mean anything to me.
Right.
And, take it or leave it. And he didn't care if there was a documentary, unless it was something he totally could control. So, I'm not proud of this, but the rest of us, caved in and, took it up the butt and signed that, because we were too far along to not go out and play, because this is what we like to do.
Right.
When you're a musician and you've had this band and this body of work that people revere and want to hear, and now you get to be more current and add things to it, I couldn't sign my own death warrant and have that not happen.
Yeah.
So that's why you don't see that documentary out, because the people that did it are so incompetent, and no matter what they were willing to cut, I don't think it was good enough for Mark, because it went beyond the obvious things I thought, the secrets he wanted to keep. Now I'm seeing it in a whole new light. It's a bigger thing than that, because I don't think he wants a documentary out that tells the story that Devo was a true collaboration and art collective.
Right, I got you, because then it would in most people's minds they think he's the front guy.
They
and
think he did it all.
He created it all.
And now that he's got that traveling art show,
yeah,
he's kind of got a megaphone. He's got the microphone, and whether he cooperates with them or not, they write these preposterous distortions of Devo history.
Oh,
because even though it's supposed to be about his art show, it ends up always being about Devo.
Of
all
course.
the articles are all about Devo and Devo's legacy and him in it. And it either trivializes my central position or tries to, bury it.
right.
And it's just there's hundreds of pages of magazines and newspaper articles written from the time we broke onto the national scene, back when everybody was telling the truth openly in interviews, that create so much documentation about who did what, and there's no problem with everybody in the room. Everybody knows what the truth is. And
Absolutely.
They agree. But I think he knows today that all those people that read that, hundreds of thousands, millions of people that read that, he's going for a different market today. They read none of that.
Yeah.
They're either dead or grandma or grandpa.
Yeah. The young world, he just wants to paint a picture.
Like Wikipedia. You could just rewrite Wikipedia. And,
yeah, right? Isn't that crazy?
I know. Somebody can get in there and change your history.
Yeah, absolutely.
And people believe it.
It's so absurd, you know?
It's just, it just seems so unnecessary, if you have all that money and fame from scoring, which, no one begrudges him for this. It's okay, you did it. But why do you have to commingle that with this in a false manner when it's apples and oranges?
Yeah.
It's just weird. And again, kind of really hurtful and insulting. It's like David and Goliath. It's oh, okay, you got the microphone right now, and you're beating me over the head with it,
That's terrible, man. Where does Devo stand now? Is it done?
Well, I mean, he refuses.
You said he wouldn't tour.
Yeah, he refuses to play live shows, which is your bread and butter. These are the offers we get. I think I mentioned that when he refused to
he said
play
I
the
won't.
Jack Black thing, the Tony Hawk thing, or even go play 3 songs at the U2's manager's house.
Guinness,
right here.
Paul Guinness.
What's that?
Paul Guinness' house.
No, not Paul Guinness. Paul Guinness was the road manager.
I got you.
Guy Osiri. In a mansion in Beverly Hills, U2 wanted us to come and play 3 songs from our first record for this private party. Everybody there, the top people in the film business, in the music business.
Oh, yeah.
Tech people from the tech world.
Refire them up. They can use your songs. Because then they go, I've always loved this.
Well,
and
you know
next
how
thing-
that does. It
Yep.
cements your place in the community of the history of music that was valid, that lasted.
Totally.
And I mean, look what Bono just did. He reaped what? $1 billion from a $76 million investment in Facebook.
Unbelievable.
So I mean, all those tech people from Silicon Valley were there, and I realized. I mean, my heart just went into my stomach when Mark refused to even do that, because Mark went from saying I won't tour because there's not enough money to I won't tour because I might get this job scoring this 22 Jump Street, but it isn't scheduled yet. But if we go out on tour, it could screw it up.
Yeah.
Right. So now it's like speculating.
Yep.
Not even like there's something in my schedule.
Now you said it's his ears.
Well, now and then he moved to the unimpeachable excuse of disability, which, I don't know how bad his hearing really is, but he rebuffed anybody's attempted help to these top people in the world that have dealt with, people like Pete Townsend and everyone else. So basically, once again, quit without quitting, and put the kibosh on any Devo realizing any revenues from being a band,
Right.
being an entity, which that goes way beyond withholding cooperation from, as officers of the corporation, from letting your
Yeah.
fellow partners make money.
Absolutely.
So it's upside down. It really is, and it's the Devo body of work is too valid, and too many people love hearing it to let it just be single-handedly, autocratically quashed like that.
Yeah, it's incredible. The music's incredible. What you guys created and how you started in Ohio,
Right.
and to I mean, like this podcast 2 weeks ago came out, and just the emails are massive, man. They're massive, and it's a shame, and it always comes down to human beings.
Oh, sure.
It's just human beings being in the same room too long over years. It's like it's hard enough being married, but then you're married to 4 or 5 guys, and one guy says, I don't want to do it. And like you said, unfortunately, people took him as the face of Devo.
Yeah.
And it's terrible,
Yeah, because we could easily go out and it would sound just as good,
Yeah.
have just as much energy now, and it would all just be a perception thing.
Yeah.
Because, I still perform 100% when I'm on stage. And everybody said that. Nobody denies that. So I wasn't phoning it in.
Right.
Or I wasn't acting like, ha, 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 isn't this funny nostalgia? If we went out, it would have all the power that Devo should have. But it's a matter of trying to convince a promoter.
Yeah, the ticket sales of like, well, the main guy's not there. Well, that's not the main guy,
He
don't-
was, and
right, but
he
I'm
was,
saying,
and- right.
like you could easily sing those
Oh, yeah.
songs.
Oh, yeah.
It's like I said, when I went to see Foreigner, the songs at the end of the day were all the people cared about. Same with Journey,
Right.
same with Styx, all those. At the end of the day, if you could really get it up and just show some
Right.
people, it might start flowing. You know
Right.
what I mean?
Well, it's like I wrote almost half the songs, and Bob Mothersbaugh wrote some of the songs.
But I mean, when you sang, people probably wouldn't notice. You know?
They wouldn't. If they weren't looking at the stage, they wouldn't.
Right.
Especially once it's coming through electronics and EQ,
Yeah. Yeah.
and you still have Josh Freese banging away with all the energy.
And
in
you're
the
still
world.
hearing the songs, man. It's just like, yeah.
And
you
my
know.
brother's son plays bass as well as I do,
Wow.
if not better.
Wow.
He's really good.
That man. Well, I mean, I think you should do it. I mean, try see if you can do one,
Yeah.
and you get it on film, and
Right.
you show the promoters, and they go, "Oh shit, this sounds great."
Right.
Maybe 3-4 songs at SIR, and let them see what it's like, the outfits.
Right. It'd be the same outfits. It'd be the same lighting aesthetic. It would be Devo.
Yeah.
As much as you can be Devo. Since Mark won his war of attrition, but it's just a shame that it goes beyond like, hey guys, I'm not interested in doing it anymore, to like making it so that no one else can.
Yeah. Well, I can't thank you enough, man. I've had you for 4 hours.
Oh my gosh.
2 today, 2 last
Wow.
time, and I really hope that I do work with you on
Yes.
this level of this
Yeah.
comedy special.
Yeah, that'd be fun for me.
I love you as a human, and you've inspired me beyond, and I think it would just be awesome, man. And I hope you would like to do it. You know what I mean? It'd be fun.
Oh, I do.
Yeah. So thank you so much. Let's give one more shout out to your wine.
All right. The good old 50 by 50, just chugging along. I make an artisanal, very specially made Pinot Noir called the 50 by 50 Sonoma Coast Pinot Noir. The current vintage is 2013. And I make a rosé of the same quality Pinot Noir. Rosé version's called the Rosé of Pinot Noir, and it's a 2014, since you want Pinot Noir being as young as you can get it. You can get it at Wally's Vinoteca in Beverly Hills, or you can go straight to www.the50by50.com, all letters, and those orders go straight to me, or the emails go straight to me, and I can deliver it in most states in the United States, plus anywhere locally. If it's in town, I can even offer free delivery. So
yeah,
if you want any good wine, let me know.
Get some wine, and also follow them on Twitter and say hi to them, and let them know you heard this podcast, because the more we just keep talking about Devo, the longer it goes, man.
Well, thank you.
Thank you so much for coming by.
All right.
See you later, brother.
Bye.